discussion. Today we are going to learn about what is a cloud computing. So before learning about cloud computing, I would request you all to please like and subscribe my channel. This will actually help me a lot to basically keep on making such kind of informative videos. Okay, now let us directly jump to the topic. What is a cloud computing, right? So the moment when you talk about the uh, cloud computing, so let us break this term into two words. First, let us try to understand what is the meaning of computing. Okay, so let us take an example. Let us first try to understand what is a computer, right? In the computer, you generally install the operating system on top of it, and the only use case of operating system is to run some kind of a program. Okay, and is to run some kind of a programs. Other than this, there is no use of operating system. The only use is to basically run some of a program, and every program is actually a file. Okay, and every file is stored in some kind of a folder, and that means in the system you can either work in a file or a folder. Other than that, you cannot work on anything else. Okay, and even when you are writing a program, right? Even when you are writing a program using any kind of a programming language, right? That programming language could be a Python, Java, C, C++, right? Even those programs are also this program also becomes a file, right? And for making a program and for running that program so that it becomes a process, you always need some kind of a resources actually to run it, right? And so the moment when you talk about the resources, those resources are nothing. It is your RAM, CPU, and hard disk. There are other resources as well, but these are your main resources actually, which is actually required for running any kind of a program in the operating system. Even when I'm talking to you, when I'm doing any kind of a video call or anything, okay, so when I'm doing the video call, it requires a video driver. When I'm typing something, it requires my trust driver. So there are tons of other hardware resources as well. But the main compute resources, when I talk about, those are your RAM, CPU, and hard disk, and these are also called as your compute resources, which is actually performing certain kind of a computing operations, right? Computing operations. Now, say, let us take an example that let us take an example that you want to write a Python program. Okay, that you want to write a Python program, and for running a Python program, you always need a compute resources. So now, what you'll do, what you think that suppose for running this particular Python program, you will go to the market and buy a laptop, right? You'll go and buy a laptop which will normally cost you somewhere around 50,000 to 60,000 rupees, right? Which is actually very costly if you see in terms of its cost, right? Rather than this, what if I say, buddy, what I'll do is, rather than you buy your laptop, what if I provide you with my resources, and I'm only going to charge you for the amount of time that you're actually going to use my laptop, right? I might have decided some of my rate chart that I'm only going to charge you for the timing that you are using, not for the other time when my resources are being idle, right? So I'm only going to charge you on pay as per use basis. Okay, that means if you use for 1 hour, okay, I'm going to charge you around 50 rupees. Now, which one is feasible for you? That buying a 50,000 rupees laptop, or a rupees 50, where suppose if you're for running that Python program, you just need to run in 1 hour, right? Obviously, 50 rupees is always going to be the feasible solution, right? So, currently there might be situation that currently you guys are watching me, right? And you also want to use my compute resources, right? But obviously I am actually sitting somewhere in the far location from you. I'm currently sitting in some location that is actually in a some kind of a remote area, right? Some kind of a remote area. So through remote area, let us through remote first try to through remote, I want to make you understand what is the meaning of the term cloud. So what is the first thing that comes to in our mind when we talk about cloud? The first thing that comes to in our mind is a cloud. is the natural cloud that we see in our sky. Oh, right, it is very far from you. You cannot touch the cloud directly, right? It is actually very much far from you. And in what is the stored in the cloud? So water is a resource, right? Water is a resource which we actually use in our day-to-day life basis, or for any other purposes. Say we are actually using the water for drinking, for wiping our houses, etc., etc. Right? But we are not paying it for that. But we are not paying it to the nature. We are not paying it to the nature. We are not paying it to the nature, right? We are not paying it to the nature. In the similar way, what if I say that currently I am actually right now I am actually sitting very much remote for you. And if you actually want to run a Python program and want to use my resource, okay, that is my RAM, CPU, and hard disk, my RAM, CPU, and hard disk, right? RAM, CPU, and hard disk to perform certain kind of a computing operations. Okay, so obviously you will have to connect with me via some medium. Okay, that is I'm currently sitting in remotely. Okay, and suppose and you can only connect with me remotely via some kind of medium, and that medium is actually the networking. Okay, and you actually connect to me remotely via network to perform certain kind of a computing operations, right? So this is also called as remote computing. Remote computing, okay, also known as, why remote computing? Why? Because that means you are somewhere sitting remotely from me. You are actually coming via network and using my compute resources to actually perform certain kind of a computational operation, and I am actually charging you for the time that you are using. Okay, this entire process is called as a cloud computing. Okay, this entire process is called as cloud computing. Uh, that means somewhere sitting far from home, you are actually trying to connect remotely to some organization or some company's infrastructure. So there are companies like Amazon, Google, and Microsoft which have actually set up their own bigger infrastructure, which is having their own RAM, CPU, and hard disk, right? And they have actually set up a website where you can directly go, and they have given you some kind of a form where you can go and fill up the form, right? Microsoft and Google, where you can go and fill up the form and can provide you detail like what kind of a compute resources do you actually need. And companies like Amazon, since they have set up their infrastructure, right? Since they have actually set up their infrastructure, so they are actually charging you for the amount of that time. Okay, so they say that if you use my resources for 1 hour, then I'm only going to charge you for 1 hour. Okay, so this is what is called the so this entire process is called the pay as per you go model. Pay as per you go model basis. Pay as per you go model basis. So this entire process is called as cloud computing. Now, suppose you are a company, suppose you are a company. Now, rather than focusing on suppose you are a company and you have actually launched a website, right? You never know when your website get viral, and you actually need to buy a lot of infrastructure. Don't you think that buying such a costly buying that such costly infrastructure will actually cost you a lot, because you also have to keep your infrastructure engineers who will be taking care of this infrastructure and everything. This is called as your variable cost, right? This is called as your variable cost, right? So instead, if I say that I being a company of Amazon, if I say, hey, buddy, you don't worry about all this thing. You come to my AWS cloud. Okay, you come to my AWS cloud, and I will launch this entire infrastructure for you. That is your compute resources, so that you can actually run your website on top, and I'm only going to charge you for the amount of time that you are actually using. So this is what actually happens in terms of cloud computing. This entire process is called as a cloud computing. Okay, where you are only paying to the cloud provider companies like Amazon, Google, and Microsoft for the amount of time you are actually using their resources to actually perform certain kind of a computational operations, right? So this entire process is actually called as a cloud computing, and this entire model is called as a pay as per use system. So this is what is cloud computing is all. right?